Greetings, land of Bitcoin. We have Bitcoin pumping hard. Topped out at 55,900. Currently, it's fallen down to 54.6. Quite an impressive little pump here. I've put together this little chart for your viewing pleasure. What this is, these vertical lines represent the dates, the last Friday of every month since November 27th of 2020, back here on the left. These are the Bitcoin CME futures expiration dates, the futures closing dates every month. I started putting this little graph or this little chart together last night. And before this big pump just started 20 minutes, half hour ago or so. I don't know if there's more to come or not, but it is a powerful little dude. So it's kind of an interesting time to make this video. I've color coded this. The red lines are the months where Bitcoin has nosedived down to the closure dates. See how that's working? Time after time after time after time. So if you watch my videos, you've heard me talk about this before. Okay, so you see a green line in there and you see two white lines. The green line is where the trend changed. So this was an enormous dump, and this is a little different through here. Although it was dumping in the month of July, it was dumping. It looked like it wanted to dump down to that closure date, which is the green line, July 30th. But there was a little conference, and it renewed a lot of bullish sentiment. It pumped up to that date and then dumped away from it. So this is an outlier. This green line is different, totally different than this whole bull run cycle. The white line here, December 25th, 2020, and August 27th, 2021, is two times where it went sideways and then pumped away from it. See how that's similar? And then the red lines, of course, like I was saying, all these red lines, Bitcoin is dumped down to it towards the last Friday every month. See that? It's like clockwork. Boom, boom. And when it dumps down to it, then it pumps up way back up from it. So let's just start here let's just start in January, right? There's this enormous, giant, parabolic push and then a massive crash. See how it's working? It's not exact to the exact date, but it's that general area of time on the calendar. And so January 29th is where Elon Musk got involved. He changed his Twitter handle to Bitcoin. Interesting enough, that was on the exact date of a monthly closure. I wish I would have seen that a long time ago. That's a little, let's just say it's interesting. And then there's this massive push, right? And then a giant crash down to the closure. Massive push, giant dump, massive push, giant dump, massive push, enormous dump, little push back up. And then this is a nice little dump, or a nice little pump here. That's a powerful little guy. And then it dumped down to it. See, again, and the pump's not huge this time. This is June, last week of June. It comes up July. It's following that same behavior. There's not a giant pump, though, but it's definitely dumping down towards that date. And then it changes here. That conference was kind of strange. So I think Elon Musk bought here around 30,000, and probably a lot of other whales out there probably are interested in not letting Bitcoin come down below 30,000. So that's interesting. That's something I've been kicking around in my head. Bitcoin, the 30,000 might be the bear market when we get here further to right, 4, 5, 6 months out here in the future into 2022. It's going to be interesting to see where the bear market finds its happy hibernation cave, right? Where it's going to hang out and stay flat. So July, it pumped up to it and it dumped away from it. And then August is kind of getting back into its typical cycle, monthly cycle. There's just a little tiny dump here down to it, but it's basically just going sideways through it. That's why the white line's there. And there's a pump away from it. So every single month so far, we're in October now. So every single month, there's been at least some sort of pump away from that closure date. See how it's working? The first months were just massive pumps away from it, and then there's the first little one here, and then this one dumped away from it for 4 days. But then look at this giant push, right? The whole month of August was basically a giant push. With there's one little dump here. It kind of looked like it was starting to dump back down, but the bulls took back over and pushed it sideways. And even at this month, there's still a push away from it. See that? Both times this went sideways. There's a nice push away from it. And so last month, September, boom, just right back on that same cycle. September 24th, last Friday of the month, dumped down to that area. And then boom, this big giant pump away from it. So what comes next? There's going to be a giant crash, right? That's not a guarantee. It's not a guarantee, but look at the history of this entire bull run. Even back here in November, back here it's kind of hard, it's deceiving because these percentages are different. This was when Bitcoin's below 20,000. So, when it was at 20,000 and it dumps down to 16,000, that's like a 20% drop. You just can't see it. It doesn't show up, right? Because the money value now is a lot more expensive, but there's a little dump away from it, or there's a push away from it and a little dump. But I really don't like back here in 2020. This bull run really hadn't technically started. I mean, it had, but it's different. Right here is where it starts. This is where our trend starts. Last week of December 2020. But anyways, you can see this. I want to put this out. So I don't want to mess anyone up. If this were to continue to pump up to 60,000 or where this might head, maybe this is the top, maybe 55,900. It kind of looks like about 56,000 got rejected. That's an impressive, powerful pump, like I said earlier. But I just want to make this video to show you what's likely to happen. There's likely a giant crash coming. Every single month, there's some sort of crash. Even in August, even in July and August, where the trend got a little mixed up. A lot of this is just kind of the tide going in and out from this giant catastrophic dump here, right? Back in May, that giant push, everyone's just kind of just got messed up in the tide or whatever words I'm trying to look for. But even there's somewhat of a dump and a giant push. So the first week of August, it's like 20%, 15%, about 15% dump right there. Then it pumps. And you're well aware if you've been watching, September was about 26% dump. I just want to make this video, get it out pretty quick to you, because the month of October, I'm sure you're hearing a lot about how October for Bitcoin's real bullish, and it has been in the past history. But this pump kind of came off of a report of Jerome Powell saying the United States won't ban, or the Fed won't ban Bitcoin. Government's not going to ban it. But that's old news, right? The U.S. government's already made it clear they're not going to ban Bitcoin, right? It's pretty obvious, right? Because MasterCard and Visa and billionaires are involved in it. And there's really not anything they can do. It looks to me like Bitcoin's just going to be assimilated into the traditional financial system one way or the other. That's how they could really control Bitcoin, is just don't ban it, right? So this is old news. But I know that was bullish news, and it's got a lot of excitement. And that's a lot of what this first pump was, from September 29th, September 30th, up to October 2nd, October 3rd. And I haven't checked the news today, but maybe there's some kind of news came out today too. But news really makes Bitcoin pump and dump. But I just want to warn you, January, see this pump coming from the vertical line? Boom. Let's see how long that took. What day of the month? January 7th. It crashed from January 7th down to the last Friday of the month. February, it was late in the month, February 20th, and then it crashed down to February 27th. These dates aren't perfect. I'm just trying to give you the feel for what's going on. I see every time these massive pushes come away, from the close. This is what I'm trying to get to, right? This is clearly a massive push coming away from the close. See right there, I just circled it. These massive pumps that come away from the closures. See how it's working? I know a lot of you have already seen me talk about this, but I just want to drive this home. See these massive pushes coming away from the closures. Massive pushes, pumps. I'm saying push, pumps. Massive pumps away from the closures dates. Here it's a little different, but still here there is a giant pump, right? It's just kind of got a double pump in there, right? And then here's a smaller one pumped away from the closure date. Here's the one time where it was different. It dumped away from it. So with these closure dates, they have a tendency, the futures closures, they have a tendency to find the pain points. Here's the 1 month, July 30th, where it pumped up to the closure and dumped away from it. And then here in September, it's not a giant pump, but there it is from like 46,000 to like 53,000. That's a nice size pump. There it is. And see what's coming after. This is what I'm trying to drive home. See what comes after every single time. Looking at those circles, every single time, even the time where it pumped up all the way to the closure date, even this time, there's this dump, right? Every single month, there's basically a giant dump, with the June dump not being that big and it was slow over weeks. July, the dump's not that big, but there it is still. So if you were to slide the month of July over a week time frame, this technically is kind of dumping down. See in July, this technically is kind of dumping down towards that date. So if you just slid it to the right a week, it would be dumping right down to it. And then this big green pump, of course, would be like the first week of July. So the timing is just a little off right there. So it's even still similar, even though it's kind of flip-flopped. But that's what I'm trying to get to, right? What's this one going to be? October 29th. This here is the October futures close for Bitcoin. This last vertical red line on the right. So I could be wrong, but it's setting up. It's the spitting image of the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically 6, and then 7, basically about 8. Basically every month, if you just slide this one over a little bit on the graph, on the chart. But this one's looking textbook for the year 2021. See it's pumping away from the September 24th closure date. It's pumping away from it. Doesn't it look like this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, right? And then this one, and even this one, if you slide it over to the right a week, and even this one right here, the first week of September, there's a nice pump, and then this giant crash. So every single time, basically, in theory, it has done this. Boom! Right? Well, that's not a very good line. Don't pay attention to exactly where I'm drawing these. but right, boom! Boom! Something like that, right? So let me take that off there. And then, so likely what's happened, maybe Bitcoin comes up here and it does bounce off 60,000 or higher. I would be surprised if it did that. But this 60,000 mark is basically the top of the cycle. And this is a Coinbase IPO that hyped it just a touch higher. But basically, the 2021 bull run topped out basically at 60,000, right? So maybe it comes up and maybe we're dealing with a double top, right? Maybe it's a double top or something. But I just want to make this video because even if it comes up a little bit, even if it comes up here, boom, right? This is likely what's going to happen. If you're new to this, it's really hard for someone that's been watching this for the last almost a year now. It's really hard for me not to make this video. It's hard. I can't not warn you whether it starts dumping today or tomorrow or 2 weeks from now, right? October 29th is the futures close. This is likely what's going to happen. There's going to be this giant boom. And then the good news is, right, towards the future date, and then it pumps away from the future date. So maybe this is bear market activity, and there's not going to be the giant crash back down to 20, but I'm still thinking it's coming. It might be 4, 5, 6 months away now before we see 20,000 or whatever. But it's going to be interesting. Maybe this is the bull. Maybe this is the bear market. It's just kind of a confusing time, right? It's going to do something like this. Don't pay attention to my exact lines there. I'm just scribbling. I think you got my point, though. Be careful. Be very, very careful. Zoom in a little here. So right now, there's this giant wick. That's a bearish wick, but it really is irrelevant until we see what happens. But you do see these big wicks. Most of the time, there's these big wicks. See that? See that? See that? This one? That's the all-time high wick. Big, juicy one. Big wick. Boom. Big wick. Boom. Big wick. Boom. Big wick. Boom. Not a, it's just a little wick there. Boom. Big wick here. I made a video about that doji right there. Boom. This is basically the first time. The last major crash, September 7th. Right here. There's really not much of a wick. I was going to make a video talking about that. This is basically the first time Bitcoin didn't produce a giant wick on top and it crashed. That's a $10,000 daily candle right there. And then it continued to crash even further. That's like 26%. So look at that. Boom. This candle closes at 7 p.m. tonight, Central Time. So it still has some time. But look at that big wick. That's basically the biggest wick I've seen on one of these tops. It's basically the size. I think it's even bigger than the one on April 14th, the all-time high. So be careful. In my opinion, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when Bitcoin goes boom, right? So be careful. Be very, very, very careful. I could be wrong talking to other people. If I'm just talking to myself, I say there's a giant crash coming. I see the comment section lots of time. People ask me when. They want a time frame. I don't know. That's impossible to tell. My videos are mainly talking about weeks and months, not tomorrow, not the day after tomorrow, not an hour from now. Right? I'm looking over here, October 29th, right here. Probably something like this. Boom. How severe it will be, I don't know. Maybe it's boom. But likely crash inbound. Likely dump incoming. And that's a big bear wick there. Traditionally. Although it doesn't have to do anything from there. It could be a setup for another little pump. It looks like another monthly setup for the pump and dump. And let's see, the bigger the pump, a big pump is a big dump, right? A big pump is a big dump. Just be careful out there. I know a lot of new people might see this and jump in and start putting in over leverage longs up here. That's probably a really bad idea. But, you do your own thing. I've just seen this too many times. It is looking like our old booger friend Bitcoin's about to do something like this. So I know lots of times I don't talk specifically enough in my videos. maybe the dump starts October 18th, right? Maybe Bitcoin kind of does this for a while, and then the dump comes the 20th, or maybe the dump comes on the 11th, or maybe it comes on the 22nd, right? Maybe the 7 o'clock, the new candle comes open, starts, and then boom, it starts today. Maybe the dump's today, but just be careful. I sure hope you enjoyed this, and as always, thanks for watching.